All right, if you're anything like me, you hate running out of food on a trip. It's like a big fear, and so I'm a big fan of snacks during an adventure, and one of my absolute favorite go-to snacks are wonderful pistachios. You may be familiar with pistachios and the brand Wonderful Pistachios, but if you're not, they are one of the highest protein nuts out there. 1 ounce serving of Wonderful Pistachios is 6 grams of protein. That's 10% of your daily value. It also includes 9 essential amino acids, and they come with a ton of different flavors, varieties. There's a spicy version, there's lightly salted, there's no salted, there's so many, and every time I go on an adventure, I'm not even lying, I take an entire bag with me. And what's cool too, I love having the Wonderful Pistachio in shell, because then that almost gives me something to do and focus on as I'm paddling or biking through the really monotonous parts of the adventure. Every great adventure is going to have plenty of boring moments, and it's nice to have something to do and also something that is giving you some fuel, like Wonderful Pistachios. So they're one of my favorite adventure snacks, favorite road trip snacks, and definitely leave me feeling better than a lot of other snacks you can turn to. So if you want to learn more about how to fuel your next adventure with Wonderful Pistachios, go to wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Rodeo season is going to be kicking off soon, and I like the rodeo. I like going to the rodeo. I like going to cattle auctions and all sorts of those activities, and I want to look the part while I'm there. I love Tecovas as my go-to boots company, and if you've ever been in one of their stores, it's an amazing experience. Their motto is "Don't go gently." They are my favorite cowboy boot, and they bring a fresh perspective to heritage boot making, and they carry forward all those time-honored traditions and quality you will find in a great pair of cowboy boots. But they're innovative on comfort, style, and service. They have Western boots for men and women and are handmade from the most premium leather and follow over 200 time-honored individual steps in their boot making process. Pretty cool. They're Austin designed, Texas tested, and handmade. And if you want to go to one of their stores, it is an amazing experience. They take customer service to a whole new level. But if you can't make it to a store, Tecovas delivers the most premium quality and most comfortable Western goods right to your door. Visit tecovas.com. And as a special opportunity just for you listeners, Tecovas is going to throw in their best-selling trucker hats or a ball cap for free into any purchase over $100 at tecovas.com. Just use the code ADVENTURE at checkout. Again, that's Tecovas, Tecovas.com, and use the code ADVENTURE at checkout to add a free hat to your order over $100. Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. NerdWallet's trusted financial journalists use fact-based reporting for some much-needed clarity in the finance world, helping you make smarter decisions with your money. The NerdWallet Smart Money Podcast has helped me plan for my tax bill so I don't dread April every year, balancing my budget for this show, and helping me financially plan for my next adventure. You can listen to NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Future you will thank you. Hey folks, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Mason. Today's episode's kind of cool. I know we've featured some CEOs in the past and folks who've started brands in the outdoors. Well, Nicole here is, this is very unique. She is the first full-time woman leader of the Appalachian Mountain Club. And if you've ever heard of Appalachian Mountain Club or AMC, it is a huge organization that has been around almost 150 years promoting the exploration and understanding and protection of the Appalachian Mountains, kind of in the northern, northeast corner of the U.S., and a hugely influential organization. And they have a famous series of huts, and they help out with a lot with the Appalachian Trail itself. And the cool things they offer to communities is so great. And so this was a really cool opportunity to be able to sit down and talk with Nicole, hear about how she got to this position, and, life's an adventure, career's an adventure, and her story about how she got to AMC is really awesome. So I'm going to save it for the show. And by the way, this interview ends abruptly. It's because when we first got Nicole on, I wanted to talk to her for the Adventure Sports Podcast. But the more we talked, I actually switched gears and was like, you know what? This is a perfect story for Without Compromise, the show I host through my day job at Athletic Brewing. And so I first published it there last week, and now I'm publishing it here. So I kind of asked questions as if I was interviewing her for Without Compromise, and I clipped some of those for our show. But it's just it's a perfect interview for both. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive in. You heard a little bit of Nicole Zussman's story in the intro. I'm going to welcome Nicole now. Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, doing fantastic. This is a huge honor, like I was saying. Through Athletic Brewing, we've been supporting the Appalachian Mountain Club for quite a few years. So this is a huge honor. Where are you coming from today?
So I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, which is where my home base is, about 30 miles outside of New York City. But I spend more than 50% of my time up and down from Virginia to Maine, which is where our region focuses on.
And I think a lot of people would be surprised by how great the outdoor opportunities are just outside of the city. I know that's something y'all talk about a lot, but I still find it surprising when I'm visiting.
It's so interesting because I think it's a total misnomer that, oh, you live in New York and how do you have access to the outdoors? And, we, our New York, New Jersey chapter is actually the oldest chapter in the AMC and one of our largest. We have about 10,000 members. And we, Harriman State Park, which is right outside New York City, and it's beautiful. It's where I recreate. We have a camp called Corman Harriman Outdoor Center. That is built on a lake. It's got cabins. You can hike, you can snowshoe, you can boat. And then we are building another camp in Harriman called Baker Outdoor Center. And when it's finished, it will be our largest facility in our entire region.
Oh, wow.
So it's a real focus of mine to continue to build out the AMC in New York, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, DC, Baltimore, because that's where there's the greatest population. There are millions and millions of people who are out there already recreating and who we want to get out there to recreate with us.
And I'm not just saying this because you're on here. I've been saying this for the last year, is my favorite hike of 2023. And I got to hike Yosemite National Park in the backcountry, Rocky Mountains, all over the country. Favorite hike of the year was in New Jersey. And I think it was just because stumbled across this little conservation area that had some trails, had it all to myself for hours. And it was a beautiful day. And I didn't even mean to do this. It was just, I had extra time between some work stuff. And I said, I had no idea. There was a waterfall out there. There was a big rock ledge. It was beautiful. Nothing on the map about it. No one told me. And I just think, how many of these hidden gems are there? And it really opened my eyes to just how beautiful and not just it's great that it's land, but it's high quality outdoor experiences adjacent to some pretty big metro areas. Do you come across that kind of experience a lot?
Absolutely. I mean, all the time. It's so interesting because within our AMC community, certainly up in the White Mountains, there's a group of people that are known as tracers. And if you're a tracer, it means that you've done every single trail in the White Mountain, New Hampshire guide, which is over 1,600 miles. And so people, and I was actually hiking with a woman who finished she was the 43rd woman to ever do it. She's 70 years old. And she said, when you're doing your tracing, you have to actually go on every little spur that's on the trail. Like if you wanted to count, and there's just so many hidden gems out there. And that's, again, there's a whole big debate around doing things for hitting your goals in competition versus doing them for enjoyment. But it is really a way through all of our guides and maps to explore trails that you probably didn't even know existed. And that's actually one of the ways. There's a 4,000 footer club, which is people that have done all 48 4,000 footers. And it originally started back in the 50s to give exposure to the little known 4,000 footers. I mean, everybody knows Mount Washington, but the other day I hiked Mount Hale, and I would never have hiked Mount Hale except that I'm in pursuit of my 48. So I had to, explore it, and it was beautiful. So I think that happens all the time, and that's the beauty of the outdoors and the beauty of the information and education that the AMC can provide to the general public.
Yeah, and that's an interesting topic that I won't spend too much time on, but just that, is it a goal or is it something you actually want to do? And as humans, we just kind of need that infrastructure sometimes to force us out the door. And that's fine if that's what gets you to go. And then you have all these memories that last because you actually put yourself out there to go get that basically peak bag. And but you wouldn't have seen that moose, you wouldn't have seen that fish jump in the lake, you wouldn't have had those experiences had you not had that goal in mind. So as long as you understand that, I think it's great. Can I ask this too? Because I'm from my family's from the Carolinas, and they all say Appalachian. Do you let people just say what they want to? Is there a right way, Appalachian versus Appalachian?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, there's also often a lot of confusion between us and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy,
Yep.
which is a great partner to us who maintains the AT. And people always say to me, "Oh, where are your chapters in North Carolina or Georgia in real Appalachia?" At some point, historically, we did have a chapter down in North Carolina. I let everybody say what they want to say. I think people from the Appalachia region pronounce it that way, and people not from it say Appalachian Mountain Club. So we're inclusive to all.
It's all the same trail.
Yeah.
You're all getting out there. Well, I want to hear a little bit about your story. How did you get to this position? Because if you look at where you came from, this didn't seem like the most obvious next step. I don't know if it feels that way to you, but I just think it's so interesting, and I don't know if I've heard that story in depth, and I just would love to spend a little time with some of your early outdoor experiences and what kind of planted the seed for where you've been for the last year.
Sure. So I do have an interesting story. I think in general, I have been a lifelong outdoor enthusiast. I love and the outdoors to me has always served as my de-stressor, my valve reliever. Like I spent almost 30 years working in corporate America, but always my vacations were centered around outdoor activities on weekends at night. I mean, that was the way that I found total joy. And I always remember, and still to this day, whenever I hike and I'm on top of a mountain and I look out and I always think, wow, I'm so lucky to see this. And there's so many millions of people that never get that opportunity. And I've always just been wowed by, I wish everybody had that feeling of joy. And so as I mentioned, I spent most of my career in human resources, in corporate, and had kind of come to the decision that I believe that everybody can have multiple careers. And I made the decision that I wanted to go work in nonprofit for an organization whose mission I deeply feel passionate about. And in January of 2022, I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro, which it was hugely on a bucket list of mine. It was an amazing, amazing experience because you're hiking for 8 days just in your head and it really, for me was a life changer because I came off the mountain and I quit my corporate job.
Was that something you were like planning on doing, or did that happen through to the hike?
Through the hike. I mean, I knew I was like, I want a career change. I want to do something different. But typical me, I would have talked about it for the next 10 years and not done anything about it. And it really was through the hike. Like I had so much time in my own head to just think through life. And again, the entire experience was so spectacular. So I came down, I quit my job. It was the first time I hadn't worked since I was 15 years old. I mean, it was terrifying. And I really, focused on mission-based organizations that I cared passionately about. And somebody was connected into AMC. And when they contacted me, I was like, I've been a member for 10 years. I've stayed in all the huts. I just love the organization. And it was such an amazing experience to go through the interview process and actually end up where I was. So I say every day I have the best job in America. I truly believe that. I have my dream job. I do think, and I hope that anybody out there listening, if you're thinking about doing something, just go for it. Like life is short, and I think people should live their life to its fullest. And now I totally have the opportunity to do that.
And you took the leap of faith without the next step being, I mean, you didn't even know what that next step was going to be.
Yeah.
This wasn't on your radar at the time. And that was about a year before you started the job. What would you say, you know, your 30 years in corporate America and your background of HR, what would you say kind of uniquely prepared you for this that maybe someone always in the outdoor industry might have just not had in their mind or been prepared with?
So I think there's a couple things. I mean, the AMC runs from Virginia to Maine. We have 11 chapters, and we are really volunteer run and led. And so, every day if you go on our website, there's dozens and dozens of activities in every type of outdoor sport, and it's all led by our volunteers. So we really are a people-centric organization, and we're complicated because it's not staff run, and it's this very complex organization. So my background in working with groups of people in all walks of life and like bringing them together under one umbrella to work towards, I always say, row in the same direction and work towards delivering mission impact, I think was unique. I would say, secondly, the outdoor world, particularly post-COVID, massively changed. And we really are in process of going through a digital transformation. And I say that in the sense of we want to be able to people to sign up for activities in a frictionless way, gain access to information, gain access to maps, our trail maps, all in a much more digital manner. And having worked in tech companies for a long time, I've got a lot of background in digital transformation and also from a marketing perspective and how do you reach a broader community. So I think a lot of it is being at the right place at the right time for what the organization needs. And at the end of the day, any president or CEO, their main role is to lead with vision and to get everybody in your community behind that vision. And that's something that I think it doesn't matter what industry you come from, you need to have that skill set. And certainly when your vision is your true passion, it's easy to lead, in that direction.
It's a leap of faith for you, but I also feel like it's a leap of faith for AMC. You're the first woman to serve as a CEO. You're outside of, you haven't been a part of the organization as far as employed for years. And also it's a very old organization. Almost you're coming up on 150 years. So yeah, I'd say both of you kind of are taking a leap of faith in a way. Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. For those who embrace the impossible, the Defender 110 is up for the adventure. The iconic vehicle has been redefined with thoroughly modern design. The exterior is reimagined with compelling proportions and precise detailing. The interior is built with robust materials and integrity, and the capability is legendary. Whether you're facing off-road challenges or harsh weather conditions, the Defender 110 lets you go further and do more. Durability has been tested to the extreme. Cargo capacity means you have room for all your gear. All this meaning to drive the Defender is to explore with greater confidence. And there's also powerful innovations like the intuitive driver display and award-winning infotainment system to keep you connected, and also the innovative camera technologies deliver unobstructed views and effortless maneuvering. And the entire Defender family is ready for a wide range of adventures. They have the two-door Defender 90, the Defender 110, and the Defender 130, which seats up to 8. So push what's possible with a vehicle made to go further, the Defender 110. Learn more at landroverusa.com/Defender. Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell anything online at every stage of your business. From the launch your online store stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit $1 million in revenue stage, Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're a podcaster trying to sell merch or selling autographed sports memorabilia, Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one commerce platform to their personal POS system. Shopify has got you covered. Now, I do use Shopify with my day job. That's our website and that's our platform. It's so handy. It makes it easy for us on the back end. It makes it easy for you as a shopper and as a customer to sell more. And they can help you all the way from those early days until you're a real business, making real money. And that's what I love about them. No matter how big you want to grow, they can grow with you and help you take control of your business to get it to that next level. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ASP, all lowercase. Again, go to shopify.com/ASP to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/ASP. That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, we've this year developed organizational values, and one of our values is bold. And I give the board a ton of credit for being bold. I really believe in that value. So it was a bold move, but it certainly paid off, I think, on both sides. And the organization is energized. We're moving forward. We've got aspirational big goals for the future. So we're excited.
Tell us a little bit about those major programs that you do. I'm more familiar, not personally, but I know about the hut system. But what are some of those other things that y'all's mission is based around of?
Great. So first and foremost, our, vision and mission is to get people outdoors. And while that doesn't sound so unique, it truly is, because a lot of conservation organizations just focus on protecting and conserving land. And a lot of recreation organizations just focus on people getting out there and recreating. And we're really that epicenter of people in the outdoors. And the way we do it is we have lodging facilities throughout our region. We have 3 magnificent lodges in Maine that are open year round. And so I'll be heading up there shortly. You can ski from lodge to lodge, and we actually move your luggage between them on snowmobiles. So you're skiing about, 7 to 9 miles a day, and then you stay at the lodge. And then the next, it's kind of like hiking hut to hut, but you're skiing it. And then, also up in Maine, we do a lot of experiential learning. So this past year we had theme weeks. So we had a gravel biking week. We've got miles and miles of gravel biking trails. As I mentioned, we do a lot of winter sports. We have over, 93 miles of groomed cross country trails. We have an International Dark Sky Festival. We are the only International Dark Sky east of the Mississippi. And I can tell you, if you go up there and you're out there in the middle of the night, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We ran a birding festival. So we do a lot of these kind of affinity theme weeks that if you are interested in astronomy, during this International Dark Sky Week, you'll hear from astronomers giving, educational sessions at night. We also have, as you mentioned, what we're most known for is our high huts in the White Mountain National Forest. But we also have our signature lodges that are roadside in the White Mountains, which is Joe Dodge Lodge and Highland Center. And we really believe on meeting people wherever they are in their outdoor journey. So you don't have to be a hardcore hut to hut, or I'm going to hike the 4,000 footers. There are so many day programs associated with those lodges. We also provide at the Highland Center, for example, we have a gear library that looks as large as any LL Bean store. And in fact, they're one of our sponsors of the gear library. So if you stay at Highland, you can borrow a backpack, you can borrow hiking boots, you can borrow whatever you need, which really reduces barriers to the outdoors. Because a lot of people are like, great, I want to try it for the first time or for a weekend, but I don't want to go spend $1,000 on gear. Do I even know if I'm going to like it? And we really, break down that barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of our mission, is reducing barriers to the outdoors. And we also reduce those barriers by, as I mentioned, we have, 11 chapters, and all of our activities are volunteer led and they are free. And there are literally, in any type of, whether it's hiking, whether it's backcountry skiing, whether it's learning how to backpack. We have all levels, paddling. I mean, last year, our Connecticut chapter, for example, led 45 whitewater rafting events that were completely free of charge, that you could literally, whitewater down on the Connecticut River and learn how to do it. Like,
And
where
anybody
else
who can show up to this? Members or anybody?
Yes. Well, obviously, we hope our members. We encourage people to join. Our chapters you can always go on our website to see all of the activities. And our chapters also often use Meetup. They have much broader groups to, advertise. So we will never turn anybody away. And if you're not a member and you show up to an activity, we will encourage you to join. And we encourage people to join because your membership dollars really goes towards our protection of the outdoors. We, in terms of continuing on with our activities, we spend a lot of time conserving and protecting land. We own over 100,000 acres in the Maine wilderness. And we view that as a really holistic approach to land management. We don't just close off the land. But obviously that size sequesters a lot of carbon, so it really helps in fighting climate change. But we open it up on all the trails. We also employ the local community to do all of our road repair work. We're doing a lot of work on fish passages and opening up what had been culverts, blocking the endangered North Atlantic salmon. We're reopening all these fish passages and bringing the salmon back up north. And then we do a lot of policy work. We have a policy team that advocates on a local level as well as on a federal level for legislation around protecting the environment. We have a large research team. Because of the age of our organization, as you mentioned, we're almost 150 years old. We have been measuring snowpack in the whites for decades and decades. And snowpack measurement really informs what's happening with climate change and how the whole watershed supply to the Northeast. So we do so much mission-based work around protecting the outdoors so that we do have an outdoors that people can recreate on for decades and decades to come.
Hopefully millennia to come.
Yes.
How do you keep a handle on all this? Good Lord. And here's the other thing I think that's so fascinating about y'all is, a lot of organizations have a mission of getting more people outside and offer, opportunities hiking, but the amount that you offer and that's free is, I didn't know that. That is so exciting. But y'all have something very unique is that you also own a lot of land. 100,000 acres is not a small parcel. That's on par with some of the quite large national parks, state parks, federally protected, state protected areas. How is that managed? Who do you lean on for that? Because there's a lot that goes into land management, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's the way I always describe it to put it into perspective. Our Maine wilderness is double the size of Acadia National Park. That's how vast it is.
Gosh.
And one of my direct reports, Steve Tatko, is our VP of Land and Trails and Research. And he grew up at the AMC. He actually grew up in Maine on this land and is a forester by trade. And so he oversees the land management in conjunction with his team. We employ foresters, and then we use a lot of local partners, again, as I mentioned, to maintain the trails, to do the timber harvesting. We do, harvest timber up there because we believe in responsible old growth forests. So it's a real network of local community partners and our own staff that support that land.
Does that include the 30,000 acres that was added last year?
No, the 100 was prior to just this. Not, as you mentioned, we acquired in conjunction with the Conservation Fund.
Yes.
The Barnard Forest, which was an additional 30,000. We are in process of still fundraising for that. And so the deal will officially close. I mean, we own it in conjunction with the Conservation Fund, but once we've raised all the money, then that will officially become 130,000 acres under full AMC ownership.
Are these kind of 30,000 acre opportunities like still available in the Northeast? Do you see this as being one of the, lesser and lesser frequency? I just wasn't aware that kind of large scale conservation was still possible.
It really only is in Maine, I would say, for the most part. I mean, that is, and this has been 20 years in the making. Our Maine Woods Initiative started over 20 years ago. There's still plenty of people with the organization that were at the forefront of that. There is, but it is one of the last places, certainly in America, certainly on the, East Coast, first and foremost, where there is that type of large scale opportunities available. But because of the way that we have managed the land for the past 20 years, the local community turns to us whenever, the way the Barnard Forest acquisition happened is because the prior owners knew us. And rather, it would have gone up on the auction block. It could have been developed. I mean, it could have gone in a much worse direction, but they reached out to us first to say, we're interested in selling and we would love you to be, the owners. So, we've just built up this reputation in the community that we, take care of the community, that we bring, people now come to the Maine woods that never would have from across America. I mean, every year our guests, come from all over the states because it's so special and it's so beautiful up there.
So what are some of the other challenges that you think are on the horizon for AMC and for your mission that maybe weren't present 20, 30 years ago and definitely not present when AMC was founded?
Well, it's so interesting because one of, I think, the biggest benefits yet challenges, so many more people are getting outdoors, as we know. And COVID, certainly the pandemic really, accelerated that immensely. But what that means is massive more usage of trails. And so while we're thrilled that millions of people are getting out there, it really takes a lot of wear and tear on the trails. And that's another area that we are really top in the States on trail building and trail maintenance. That's another huge piece of, part of our work. And it's really, really expanded over the past even 5 years. We, have in New Hampshire, near Joe Dodge Lodge, we have something called Camp Dodge, which is our trail skills college. And it's where we house our trail crew. We house 120 trail crew all summer long that were spent, again, rebuilding some trails. I mean, one of the most famous, trails in the Whites is the old bridle path going up to the Franconia Ridge. And it has just been completely eroded between climate change and thousands of people, hiking on it every day. And we were able to receive a federal appropriation through our New Hampshire delegation to repair it. So it's a multi-year project. That's a real challenge that, really has come about in the past 5 to 10 years. You didn't see the type of trail erosion because of climate change, as well as because of the volume of people, that we, again, have to make sure that we're maintaining our trails. And we've also started another niche area that we do is we build all persons trails, because we believe that, trails, the outdoors is accessible to all. So we just built a beautiful all persons trail at our Cardigan Lodge, which is in Alexandria, New Hampshire. And it's a mile with flat grade that can handle any wheelchair. And it just enables anybody of any ability to be able to spend, time in the outdoors. So I think that's a real also shift in making sure that the outdoors is accessible to all. We have something called an Outdoor Journey Fund that other nonprofit organizations can access if they need subsidies financially for getting their groups up, or they need guides to get their groups up. We take up wounded warriors. This past year, we had a organization that is visually impaired that hiked Mount Pierce with our guides. So we do a lot of work like that. And are really looking to build out, that area of our business. So that's definitely an area of growth. And then I guess going back to your question on challenges, I mean, our biggest challenge is it's hard to even say fighting climate change. Now it's more mitigating the impact of climate change. I don't know, it is here, it is real. We had the wettest summer on record, across our region, and doesn't look like that's going to change. There is, as we're all very aware, winter whiplash is here. In any given 48 hours, it can be 20 degrees and the next day it's 55 degrees. And that is really bad for the environment. It's really bad for the land. It's really bad for, biodiversity. So our research team and policy team is really focused on that, again, to ensure that we have a healthy outdoors.
Right. And you're in a great position to gather that data.
And we use data. I mean, that is what, we are scientists. It is not, and, when people question it, it's data driven with decades and decades of data.
Those are some of the challenges when we were talking about this just before that was the popularity, these high huts, the hiking stuff in and out. Well, with the growth and kind of the awareness of these experiences and the popularity, how do y'all balance your conservation goals with, hey, this is a huge revenue driver for us. Should we build more huts? Is there the capacity? Like, you got to, not prioritize, but you got to balance those needs as well.
Yeah, I mean, so the huts are spectacular, and I would tell anybody it truly is an epic experience. And, when you talk about the impact on conservation, we are still transporting our food up to the huts as we did 100 years ago. So if you work at our huts and we call the people that work there crew, CROO. It's an AMC thing. They put pack boards on their back twice a week. These old school pack boards
look very uncomfortable.
Yep, they carry 70 pounds of food up, and then when they go back down, they're carrying all the trash down out. So we really, again, are trying to mitigate, the human impact as best we can. We really pioneered. We use a Clive composting system that, for our toilets, which is, you dump these worms into these big compost things and they make the compost and we put it back into the woods. So it's like a full holistic cycle of human waste going back into, back on the land. And, we have a large geographic footprint. And as I mentioned earlier, where our growth is in the larger population areas where we're building a camp at Harriman State Park. I mean, we do not have, plans to build more huts. We lease, we're a permittee with the White Mountain National Forest. They own the land where the huts are, and we're a permittee of theirs. And we work very closely. And we're really great partners with White Mountain National Forest because we work together to make sure that we're not having a harmful or outsized impact on the land. And that's why, it's very strictly jointly regulated by both of us.
Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. I'm a big NBA fan, so I might be getting in on the action with some NBA games this playoff season. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Testing your skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. It's really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use ASP for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the Prize Picks app today and use the code ASP for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode. When you first started, you were talking about doing this road trip to all the huts and to all the areas and to all the chapters. Did you end up doing that to kind of get a sense? And tell us maybe what was like one of the biggest understandings from that road trip? But tell us about that first.
So I have been to every facility, visited every chapter. I mean, I think it's really important to totally immerse yourself and, really understand what we do. And So one, it is how complex we are and how it's just unbelievable to me. I think, the greatest part of my first year and of our organization is the people that I meet. They're always super interesting. They care deeply about the right things. They care, deeply about access to the outdoors and conservation. And, the people that choose to volunteer or work for the AMC really deeply, deeply care, which is so different than many organizations. So I think that was my, one of my greatest aha moments was the community that we have is truly spectacular. I'm inspired every day. I mean, again, because we've been around for so long, I've met people that became members in the 40s. I hiked with a 92-year-old who was one of the fathers of the Bay Circuit Trail, which we helped to maintain in Massachusetts. And, he gave me a run for his money. I mean, I meet people all the time that are doing, older people that are still super active, which is just so impressive. And then I meet young families who their kids are out there for the first time, learning how to backpack. And that's really amazing. So it really gave me a good appreciation of all the work we do and just listening to both of our members, our staff, and what they want from the AMC. Because my goal is to have mission impact and provide what our members and our broader population, needs from us.
Tell us about some of your initiatives, which are recreation, conservation, and education. Do you find that I find that people that mature in the outdoors and fall in love, those kinds of things just start happening naturally, but they work with each other and it almost becomes this cycle that's like the more you recreate, well, the more you understand and the more you want it to protect. And so you educate yourself on these topics and then you want to get out more and it's a vicious cycle, Nicole. It's a vicious cycle.
Well, we don't call it a vicious cycle. We call it a theory of change. It's exactly the way you've described it. I mean, we truly believe the more you get outside and the more people we get outside, then they will care about it and they will become conservation stewards. So it is a way to really, harness the energy of people that just love the outdoors by them realizing that you have to take care of it. And you have to yourself. I mean, for example, you can go on our website and sign up for something called the Conservation Action Network. And that's, we will send you, and I'm sure you might be from other organizations, pat emails to send to your state representative when it's a policy, whether it's, land and water conservation funding or whatever, that we want people to get involved. We want to engage people in advocating and stewarding the outdoors. So that we will meet you wherever you are. If you come in as a conservationist, we can teach you through education how to get outside more. If you're coming in that angle, and if you're coming in from the angle of I'm outside all the time, but I don't know what to do. I feel paralyzed. How do I fight climate change? How can I even have an impact? And, on the education front, for example, we're launching a contest in February. We have an app. It's called Snow Source, and you can measure snowpack yourself and then upload it like wherever you are. Wow. And again, we try and create community scientists. We also have an iNaturalist app where if you're out on the AT, take a picture of flora, fauna, and upload it. And we use when it's blooming and when it's dying as a harbinger, again, of climate change. So we're trying to get people outside so that they can learn about it through our educational opportunities and then become stewards of it.
And again, you're almost providing them that infrastructure to get them out the door. We need that. And if it is like, hey, we need data for our snowpack, when it's like, well, I have the app. I do enjoy doing that. Maybe I'll go do that today. That's almost like an opportunity that newness and technology provides that you bring. What would you say are some of those other innovations you're working on? I'm sure an organization, especially with so many volunteers and so much legacy, it can be hard to introduce new ideas a lot of the times, because I always find volunteer-based organizations, the compensation is not money, it's emotional connection, it's relationships, and it's legacy, which can be very hard to navigate. So how do you introduce innovation into an organization like AMC?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I don't know if I would call it innovation, but what we really are focused on is growing our community, both in numbers, but as well in diversity. And diversity can mean what you look like, it can mean your socioeconomic status, it can mean where you are in your outdoor skill level. But we are really looking to evolve, I think, from this historically older organization of hardcore, outdoor, peak baggers to really, we want to be reflective of the community around us. Where, I'm very focused on families because in my listening tour, anybody I asked, I'm saying 90% of the people would say, oh, when I was a kid, I had this family adventure. I did something with my family, and that was my first love. And it really shows me there's a huge through line to passion for the outdoors and doing something super fun when you were a kid with your family. And so I think if we can continue to really cultivate families and provide experiences for them, that's really going to help, one, again, create the next generation of stewards and the next generation of enthusiasts. But, that takes time. We need to, focus on partnering with other affinity groups, whether that's Latino outdoors or outdoor Afro, other groups that are bringing different populations out to the outdoors. How can we partner with them? I know with Athletic Brewing, we had our annual summit this weekend, and we had over 400 volunteers. We had workshops all weekend, and Jay Levy gave a workshop on the work that he's doing, the Indigenous Site Survey on the NAT, in which I know, thank you, that Athletic Brewery is hoping to sponsor. And, it was fascinating to listen to him. I learned so much. And, I would love, as I chatted with him afterwards, how can we build out that partnership and do more work and help him in his work? So I think it's really, looking at that holistic view of what the outdoors was historically and acknowledging it, and what it can be going forward.
Tell us a story that gives you the most hope for the future of outdoor recreation in general. Maybe it's directly through a story with AMC, or just anything that kind of is almost anecdotal that you could point to and say, this kind of story, this kind of email or message or experience really gives me hope for the future.
Yeah,
It might be tough to pull out of, thin air.
No. It's funny. I will tell you, the very first time that I went up to the huts, and I went with friends, and as I mentioned, I always did a ton of hiking locally in the New York area. And one of my friends said, oh, have you ever heard about these huts in the high mountains? So we planned a trip. And when you go up to the huts, meals are included, and the crew makes homemade bread every night and soup. I mean, it's a multi-course meal.
Gosh.
And they call you in, you eat family style. And that's what a lot of people love about it, because you're meeting a community. You're sitting at a table, sharing stories. And I was sitting out on the porch, chatting with a young guy and his 8-year-old son. And they called for dinner. And I said, oh, come in. And he said, no, I'm actually a thru hiker, and I took my son out of school in March. His son was 8 years old. It was now July. We were up on the Whites, and I was wowed, and I ended up chatting with this kid, and he just was telling me story after story about his adventure with his dad and how he couldn't believe he was up in these huts, and it was so amazing. And I was just like, you know what? The world is going to be okay, because again, and it goes back to the families and hearing, from young kids who just have these amazing experiences. Another program that we run is called the Mountain Classroom, and we run that in New Hampshire, where we bring school groups out, to hike and provide education, and just listening to those kids. I mean, it truly gives me such joy. Like at the end of the day, that's the feeling of, wow, like the future is bright. And I believe that.
Wow, what a great story. I love that. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of one of your huts right now. I'm not sure which one it is, but thinking to have a hot meal in that after a long day of hiking with a bunch of people at sunset in the mountains, like I can't think of a better thing in the whole world to do.
And there is nothing better. It is spectacular. It is.
Because the shared meal and just a good meal is such a unique element of that. because it's, I mean, you can do that in a lot of places, but not there. Really special what y'all have. Any major announcements or any major shifts that are the upcoming 150th anniversary of AMC? I'm sure a lot of that's, under wraps right now, but anything you kind of foresee?
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't call it anything major, but we're really going to focus the next few years, building equitable access is going to be a real focus of ours. And what we mean by that is both physical, like where should we be building trails, building them more near environmental justice communities. Like we do believe that the outdoors is for all and there needs to be open space for all. And really, again, focusing on building our all persons trail. So I think building access in a physical way, as well as removing barriers in an economic way. So building out our gear libraries, so there's more of them across our region, building up our outdoor journey fund so that more and more organizations can access it. That's where, we really want to focus our efforts so that more and more people can get outdoors and have those joyous outdoor experiences.
I had someone recently reach out and say, why does it matter who enjoys the outdoors? Why does it need to be a diverse group out there? Why can't you just let people do what they're into, what they want to do? What's your answer to that? Because I thought it was interesting that, there's folks that don't get why this is such a big push in the outdoor industry.
I think it's twofold. One, because historically there were so many barriers to the outdoors. So I think oftentimes when people say that, they actually don't recognize how many barriers have historically existed. And we're actually working with an organization, and their name is DEI Outdoors. And we're working with them. They're an amazing organization to really help us ensure that access. And it's important because it's a moral imperative that everybody does have access to the outdoors. I mean, for example, when you talk about environmental justice communities, if you look in, urban areas, they in low income neighborhoods have the least access to the outdoors. It's just all concrete. There's no green. They're hotter as a result. Like when you don't have trees and forests, they are physically hotter, and everybody should have that same access and ability to get outdoors. So, and if you don't want to be outdoors, like I always say, our place is not to convince people to go outdoors. Like we're not going to go talk to the person sitting on the couch and try and convince them how great it is. But it's for the people that want to get out there and they might not know how, have the skills, have never done it, have the equipment, have the know-how. That's where we really want to be the enabler. And it's important to, reflect the community around you. And if every time, I would say in the past 5 years, when I am out on the trail, whether it's an AMC trail or any trail, it is a diverse group of people out there. It's already out there. So let's make sure that we're providing that. So that would be my answer.
Is there, and I know y'all are very regionally specific. Is there any other region of the country or the world that you think's doing a really good job of doing your mission as well? That they're like, hey, they're doing a great job where they work.
That's a good question. Out west, our a peer organization is the Mountaineers. I think they're doing similar work really well. But I would say, what impresses me the most, and we work with a lot of these smaller groups, are all the land trusts that are out there, and people, obviously I would love anybody listening to this podcast to please join as a member, but also, go out and volunteer in your local park and your local land trust. I mean, that's also how we are going to protect the world. It's not always through large scale national or regional organizations. I think it's super important to get involved at a local level as well. And so, we love being great partners in every state, in every local municipality. And a lot of our volunteer trail maintainers, started because they were maintaining the trail on their local land trust and then said, oh, I became an AMC member and now I'm maintaining, some of AMC's trails. So I love the work, done at a local level.
First of all, thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us that you choose to listen to the show. If you'd like to help us further, you can leave a review on iTunes, share us with your friends, your family. It goes a long way to growing the show. You can also support us financially through patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. Link is in the show notes. And also, if you have an idea of who could be a good guest for the show, we're always looking for people to tell their story about the outdoors or adventure. So if you know someone, please reach out. Email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. And until then, get out there and have some fun.